Hi everyone, welcome to my live. Listen, I've been going live a lot lately. And let me get this lighting together. But I've been going live a lot because first and foremost, if you are getting my travel diaries, you know I am trying to hit my monetization goal on YouTube. But I want to go live because today is my anniversary. I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand. If you haven't been watching any of my lives, I've been here for 45 days. I know the exact day because I just had to extend my visa here. It's been good so far. I'm loving the weather here and the community that is here. So as you're coming into the live, make sure you are hitting that like button on that replay game. Make sure you're hitting the like button and ask me any questions you have, and I will answer them on this live. I probably will be on for an hour because I have a few things I know I want to cover from the questions that I get in my DMs all the time. So I'm going to go over those common questions and just my major mistakes that I want to just share with people. Hello. My family is on. My auntie is on. Listen, my family be supporting me, y'all. They gonna support me if they don't do nothing else. So I appreciate it for you being on. And if you are coming in, let me know. Say hi in the comments. But Chiang Mai is 13 hours. Now 13 hours because of daylight savings time. I'm 13 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So the time in New York and Detroit is 13 hours ahead. So it's 11 p.m. for me. So that means the live, if you watched the live yesterday, it's still the same day for me. I got up at 6 in the morning. Well, I think it was 6:30 in the morning when I went live to join and talk about that. So hi Leonard, as you're joining on, thank you. I seen your comment on Instagram for that you were going to join. So thank you for being here. But I'm getting more comfortable with just going live and hopping on. And I remember when I first started doing it, I'm like, if it's just me, it's just me. So let me get right into it. Before I go over the mistakes that I made, let me go over the biggest thing I got right. First and foremost, celebrating this event, like leaving Detroit with a going away party. That was the biggest thing I got right because it left everyone with excitement and people knew why I was leaving. So it wasn't like I was leaving because I'm miserable in the United States from a standpoint of I don't have friends or family. That's not the case. I left because I wanted a growth point for me, and I was feeling stagnated. So I celebrated leaving, and it made, like I said, it made people excited for me. It eliminates some worry for people, not all, but it eliminated a little bit of worry for people. And I let people know how to get in contact me and all of that. So that's what I got right is celebrating leaving by having a going away party. And then second thing I got right was the route. So my plan when leaving was to visit every continent except for Antarctica because I do not like the cold. So that was not on my to-do list. As you're joining, make sure you're hitting that like button and let me say hi to me in the comments. Let me know who you are. Because I be seeing the numbers. I'm like, who was on the live today? So um the route that I did. The biggest question I get is how did you know where you wanted to go? How did you map it all out? Did you book everything in advance? So I knew the major countries that I wanted to visit. Like I've always wanted to go to Japan, and I'm going to Japan in a couple weeks. I've always wanted to go to like Santorini. So like Kenya and Ghana, like the major countries that I wanted to go to, I had those mapped out. And then with listening to different travel podcasts, I got ideas on other countries to go to. So I literally had like at my going away party, what I got right, which I mentioned already, I had like postcards for people to see where I was going, like with suitcases, so you can follow my journey. So that's what I did right. I started in Europe and then I went to Africa. Then I went back to the United States for 2 weeks and then I came to Thailand. Now, going back to the United States was not on my list at all, but that's what I got right. My family and my friends are really important to me. So even if you have a plan, and this is why I don't book anything out more than a month in advance, I was able to rearrange some stuff and go on my aunt's 75th birthday cruise. I knew if I didn't go to that, I would have regretted it. So I went, and it was 19 of us. We had a great time. If you haven't seen any videos on that, make sure that you check those out as well. So that's what I got right. The two things I got right is definitely, well, I got more than the two things right, but those are the biggest. Having to go on a away party and the route I took to do this whole journey. What I got wrong is living accommodations. I have canceled a total of 4 Airbnbs at this point, and I got 4 refunds. And I'm gonna tell you how I did that in a minute. And I stayed at a horrible, horrible, horrible hostel. So 5 times in my journey by myself, not knowing where I am, hating where I'm living, and having to hurry up and find out where to go next. I've gotten kind of used to this if it happens, like what to do. But the first time it happened, I was a little overwhelmed. So, how I made this mistake, I don't know. At first, I was like, I check first of all the superhost. When I do Airbnbs, I primarily stay in Airbnbs. So I'm going to talk about the mistakes I made with Airbnbs first. So if you have questions about Airbnbs and hostels, make sure you drop them in the chat. And if you're watching on replay, leave them for me in the comments and I'll still come back and answer them. But I only stay in Airbnbs with superhosts, meaning that these people have high reviews. Airbnb are saying like they're like trusted and verified or whatever. That's first and foremost. And then I look at the reviews. I look to see if they have a lot of reviews. Any Airbnb with less than, at first I was saying 10 reviews, but now if it's less than 20 reviews, I'm not even going to look at the rating because I want to see more reviews and read the comments and what they are. So that's first and foremost. Superhost, how many reviews? Because you can have a 5-star rating, but if you only have one person stay there, you could have had your friend stay there for a day and write you a review. So I want to see more than one review, and like I said, I want to see 20 now, and then I want to see that rating be at least a 4.85 or higher. So you on Airbnb, it's the app, and you're basically booking to stay in someone's like rental property, but for just like a couple days, a week, or a month. So, or heck, you could stay longer if you want to. So I'm thinking I'm doing everything right. I only do Superhosts. They have high reviews. I look at the pictures, and then I look at the location. Like sometimes what I've gotten wrong was not really looking at the map on Airbnb and comparing it to Google because I want to stay in the city center. I don't want to have to be an hour outside of things. So with the first Airbnb, it was so much damage. I have a whole video on this. This is when I was in southern Spain. The reviews, it had like a 4.9, but guess what? It had like 10 reviews and they were rated high, but the pictures, I should have paid more attention to the pictures in this Airbnb because they angled the pictures to cut off damage. So when I first walked into the building, it was just a mess. Like it just looked worn and not kept. So when you're in Spain, they have the Spanish tile brick. Some of those was crumbling when I walked in. If you're just joining, I'm talking about my horrible Airbnb experiences. It was mail stuffed in the door. I was like, okay. So I immediately, I text 2 to 3 people when I'm getting to my Airbnb and letting them know. I share my location on Google Maps as I'm like arriving to new places. And I'm looking like, why this look a little messed up? Go to the bathroom to check out the bathroom. I always video as I first entering. It's a towel hanging up, like they didn't even clean the place. But the biggest thing, it was mold in the bedroom, like on the bedroom wall. And the way they took the pictures, like in the entrance, they made sure not to have pictures of the damaged Spanish tile. So you wouldn't see that. Because that's like the first indicator before you go in the house that it's going to be some issues. Then they had a big cracked window sill. It was just a lot of things wrong. So immediately I go on Airbnb app. I find me another place. I contact the host because It was damages, so I had took pictures of that, and I'm like, what's going on with the AC? Because as I'm sitting in there so I can find another Airbnb, and the air's not working. So I messaged the host like, what's going on with the air? And he said, oh, the air won't be fixed until for a couple days. Biggest thing with Airbnb, if you hate your Airbnb, so damages, I could have got my full refund with that alone. But the fact that if they have an amenity listed and it's not there, you can cancel, get a full refund, even if it's not refundable, and go to a new Airbnb. So I had two things working in my favor. The damage, it was mold, so I was going to be able to get out of that anyway, but the air conditioner not working. So I found another Airbnb. I got, not only did I get a full refund for that stay, but I also got like a coupon. I think it was like $100. They range because all the time if I cancel, they be between $100 and $150 I'll get back on top of my refund. So if you are staying in Airbnb, make sure, if you don't like it, if you just like, ugh, I don't have a good feeling about this, you can't cancel on that alone. You have to have a reason if you want to get a refund. So what I do is check for amenities that are missing. So I've gotten a refund when I was in Romania because she didn't have shower gel. I'll be petty. Look, I'm like, it's no shower gel in here, it's no shampoo in here, and I wanted some extra linens because her listing said it had extra linens. So I took pictures. I messaged her, and she said she was gonna bring the items the next day. She didn't bring them the next day. I sent all those screenshots to Airbnb, and I got out of it. Like if I didn't, that's what I mean. Like really go through and try to figure out what's missing so you can get a refund. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. Hey Jackie, if you are planning just even locally, if you're booking an Airbnb and you're like, what if I don't like it? I'm getting an Airbnb for a first time. Maybe you've always gone with people, but you've never been the responsible, like the leading party to book one. That's one tip. You can always get a refund with Airbnb with air cover. That's not the insurance. That's just through them having their guarantee to make sure everyone likes their stay. So I went through that 5 times. I'll just share my most recent one in Thailand. That Airbnb was nice, but it was too far out the way. Like it was so far from the city center, and I booked it and I knew it was a little outside of the city center. Like I said, I try to stay in the city center, meaning where all the action is happening. We don't really say that a lot in the United States. We don't say city center, but city center is like where you want to be. And it was so far away. Not only was it far away, but it was a lot of amenities, but I had to pay more for that. So, for example, there was a gym because I said when I came to Thailand, I was gonna work on my fitness. That's another thing I got wrong is gaining some weight. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. And it had the pool is fine. I'm not a big pool person. I'm more of a beach person, but the gym you had to pay a daily rate. And I'm like, this already out the way. So long story short, I was like, I'm a fine, look for an amenity. Like I said, I was like, she got washer dryer listed. Let's see if this work. The washer worked, but she didn't have a dryer. So sent her a message. She was like, oh, we don't have dryers in Thailand. I meant air dry. Well, that's your mistake. I'm going to get a full refund. And I had stayed there 2 nights. And I got a refund for the nights that for all the nights I didn't book. And then mind you, I'm booking for a month. I was booking for a month. So I was like, I'm not staying here for a month. So I got the 28 days refunded back to me, and then Airbnb gave me $150. And that was way more than what I paid for the 2 nights. So I'm gonna get to some of y'all questions. Love what you collect. I would suggest do not book an Airbnb for 3 months out. What part of Mexico are you going to? Are you going to Mexico City, Playa del Carmen? Because I know a lot of people are going to those hot spots. But what I would suggest is get there and book for maybe 2 weeks, and then get into some expat groups and find somewhere where you can book month to month because you're gonna save half the money. And get like a short-term lease. I'm doing that in Thailand, and I've seen in different Facebook groups that people do that in Mexico. But if you want to just stay safe and book through Airbnb because you don't want any issues, ask the host if they can give you a reduced monthly rate because you're going to stay for 3 months. Um, but the reason why I'm saying that is if you get the Airbnb, the air cover that I just explained, looking for the amenities that don't work, you have to do that within 72 hours of your stay. 48 hours or 72 hours. So within 2 to 3 days of your stay. After that, you can't get a full refund. So you see what I'm saying? Like booking out for 3 months, it could be in your favor because you can have a great place and you don't have to worry about constantly moving around if you like it, right? Because that's the risk which you take. If you book it straight ahead through, if you love it, it could be great. You don't have to worry about looking again. But if you're not familiar with the area, what if you just don't like it and you didn't realize certain things after a week? It's going to be really hard to get your money back through Airbnb after that time frame that I mentioned. So let me know what area you're staying in. Hey Jacob. Yeah, I was eating good in Ghana and definitely gained weight. And then when I went back to the United States, I gained weight. So all before then, I actually lost weight when I was in Europe because a lot of their food was bland and I didn't like it. So that was one reason. And then Kenya, I was eating really, really healthy, and then I was doing yoga, so I was good. And then once I got to Ghana, it was over because I was partying, and then it was so much good food, and then just wasn't being responsible. So, with Guadalajara, okay. So yeah, I would still, even with Gladys, I don't see a lot of people in that area, so it may not be a high. I say a lot of people, like I've been through Mexico. I'm saying from what I see in Facebook groups, so it may not be a high traffic area. So booking for 3 months out at a time may be fine, but just keep what I said in mind about the Airbnb cover. If you book for 3 months out, you may not be able to get a full refund if you hate it. If you've been there a week and you have this whole extended stay. Now, if you're booking with Airbnb, do not pay with a debit card. Make sure you pay with PayPal so you can get the extra PayPal protection. So if you pay with your debit card, use the PayPal option because PayPal will dispute for you and you may get your money back versus just going through your bank. Um, that's just one major tip. So even if you say, you know what, I'm booked through Airbnb for 3 months, I'll listen to what you said about those tips. But just to be on the safe side, if you do need to cancel, make sure you use PayPal. Hello, mother. My mom just joined. Um, listen, I that's true, Jacob. But listen, yeah. I got you. I got you a gift, Jacob. Don't worry. And I actually do send my mom gifts home for people, and then I have gifts that I just sent home that I've gotten for people that I think about. So when I come back in August, I'll be distributing some gifts to people. Um, yeah. So let me know again if you have any questions on Airbnb, and let me know if I've help with answer that question. So over budget. Yeah. So let me get to this point right here. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm trying to see or maybe make a comment on there because I'm trying to do this on my phone instead of my laptop. So y'all may have to bear with me a little bit as I'm trying to get used to this. But over budget. So everyone asks me how much should I save to do this. I will not share that number because I feel like sharing that number makes you feel like you have to get to that number that I'm sharing. And that's not necessarily true. I like sharing the methods that I did to save to that amount of money. But telling you my number is not going to be helpful for you. It's all about figuring out how much it costs or where you're going first. So I'll share that in another live, but I'll briefly go over that. Like knowing how much is that Airbnb going to be. So I did price out ahead of time before I left. How much is it going to be able to stay? How much will it cost for me to stay in the Airbnb for a week or for a month? Sometimes staying in a hotel is cheaper. Sometimes in a hostel. Hostels are basically dorm rooms. And I only did this when I first started out because I wanted to have community. I have I'm not going to limit myself with the word introvert, but I pretty much stick to myself. And so I have to really make a lot of effort to meet people. And when you stay in a hostel, you can have a private room. You don't have to stay in a dorm with 4 or 5 other people because I'm like, I'm too old for that. But I actually end up doing that, and I'll share that with you in a second. But They'll have events for you to do, and it's just kind of like college where it's events, you can meet people. And I needed that little boost when I first left, because I'm like, how am I going to meet people? Like the Facebook group thing, everybody's saying that, but I wanted to test the waters, and so I stayed in a hostel in Barcelona, and that was a very good decision I made. um but back to my budget for living accommodations. I budgeted for $18,000 for the year, so $1,500 a month. So what I did was, before I left, again, I looked at Airbnb and I looked at hotels, and 1,500 was my max. Now, I left in June 2022. So when I was doing a lot of this budgeting, it was in October of 2021. This is before the peak season happened in Europe, and everything I budgeted for like double and triple. So I left Europe. I was there for four months, and I went back for 2 weeks. So 4.5 months total. When it was all said and done, I was over my budget by over $5,000, and that was just for living accommodations. Whew. So, what took most of my money? In Europe, Portugal. It drained me. It drained me from a living accommodation standpoint and from activities. Like it was so expensive. Um, for example, I started in Paris. I started with my best friend and my two cousins. So, sharing a room with my best friend, we split those costs. I wasn't over budget there, and I was only in Paris for a week, so that was fine. Then I went to Barcelona. Barcelona prices were insane for Airbnb. For like a week, it was like, let's say like $1,000, $1,100. And I had before, like I said, I didn't book ahead of time. This is one mistake I made. Like it worked for my good and against me without actually purchasing this stuff in advance. Um, I wasn't budgeted for $1,200 for the week for 1 week. Remember, my budget for the month was $1,500. So I'm like, oh, what the heck? So I had to figure out how I was going to make that work. Sometimes I'm just like, F it, I'm just going to go over budget, and I'm going to have to just make it up later. And that's what I'm doing now in Thailand. I'm going to tell y'all how much I'm paying for my Airbnbs now, because I'm saving a lot of money being here. But yes, so Barcelona, um, even with staying in a private room in a hostel, and I'm trying to think of the cost off the top of my head, for a week and a half, I think it was $700 or $800. That's for a week and a half in a hostel. Now I did pick a higher end hostel, and I had my own room for most of that, but I wanted to be where it was like clean, safe, and secure. After Barcelona, I went back to Paris. And then I went to Portugal. Portugal is where I lost a lot of my budget, because the Airbnbs in July, it was peak season. People hadn't traveled for 2 years. Remember, if you're coming in to the live, make sure you hit that like button. And then as I'm talking about my experiences, let me know if you have questions. I'm going to get to questions in a moment. But for the hotel for 10 days was $1,500 in Portugal. That hotel was cheaper than any Airbnb. Again, when I do Airbnb, I want a super host, I want a high rating, I want these reviews, I got all these filters, and I want the entire place. I don't want to rent a room, and I need to have AC. I'm not about to be doing no fan. So with those Airbnbs for 1 week, I mean, they were literally like $2,000 in July. Now, I will say that's my experience. I was again looking at this like 2 weeks before coming. If I would have booked maybe in February, I wouldn't have paid that, because I met a lot of people who were in Portugal the same time as me, in Lisbon and in Porto, and they booked in January, and I didn't book that early. So that's where that whole I'm gonna go with the flow. Yeah, it killed my budget. So yeah, Portugal. And so at Barcelona, Portugal, as I was through Europe every other week, I was like, oh my God, like I'm killing my budget here. But I was still going out and doing things. So yes, I needed a break, and I needed to save some money. So the first thing I did was I went to Airbnb. I put filters for how much I was trying to pay a month. I was like, I'm trying to pay $1,200 a month at least, so I can get back, at least have 1 month of hitting my budget. I filtered for $1,200. I just put it on Europe. I didn't even pick a country in Europe. I'm like, we just gonna see what pop up, and I can filter out. I put $1,200 a month, and needed to have a view of a mountain or water view because I wanted to relax for the month. And it needed to have Wi-Fi and AC because this was still in summertime. So what popped up was Bulgaria and Romania. And I went to YouTube and I'm like, what? Why is Bulgaria pop? We're Bansko, Bulgaria. And that's actually a place where a lot of digital nomads go. So, um, yes, listen, you can rent a full house in Barcelona for $700 a month, but when you're traveling and you're using Airbnb or VRBO or just a site to rent stuff from, listen, I'm telling you right now, if you would have looked in July of last year, it was double that. And when you go, and I think someone just asked a question about Airbnbs in Mexico. One thing is, if you book on those sites, it's going to be double whatever a local month to month rent is. So $700 a month in Barcelona in the peak time, it's going to be probably $1,400 a month for rent on Airbnb. So because people who put it on there, they have to take out for cleaning fees. Airbnb gets a cut and stuff like that. So once I know I'm in a place, I only book on Airbnb for 3 days, and I look for something where I can get a month lease. We are obsessed with Airbnbs because that's a good guide to figure out where we're gonna stay, right? So think about if you were trying to go to a country you've never been to before, what would be your starting point? Like you can use a hotel booking site, but if you have nobody, you don't know anyone, where would you go? You would use some type of website to see, right? And then if you use that website, you got to drill down more and figure it out, right? So, and then you got to be aware of scams too. I can go in a Facebook group to find something month to month, but I got to also keep on like, okay, I'm gonna pay this person. If I pay them cash, can I just take my money and run off with it? So a lot goes into that. When trying to find somewhere to stay. So, Zico, am I saying that right? Let me know. So you get what I'm saying? Yeah, I know Americans love them some Airbnb. I use it as a guide. I usually use Agoda now. In Asia, that's more popular to use, but you have to use some type of website as opposed where you're just getting to a country you don't know. So I'm traveling the world by myself and I haven't been to any of these countries. So I need to have some marker for me. So I went to Bulgaria. This is what I got right going to Bulgaria. And I ended up staying in a crappy Airbnb. Now, every time I say that, Zico, hopefully I'm saying your name right. Now I'm going to keep thinking about your comment like, y'all Americans love y'all some Airbnbs. Um, I filtered on that, and the Airbnb, it was dirty. Dishes was dirty. She lied about washer and dryer in her place. So I got my money back and went somewhere and I paid $900 a month. And the reason why I decided to stay in Europe was because I still wanted to see Italy and Greece. So I wanted to see Europe. I wanted to stay in Europe and then go to Africa, which I end up doing, like, and do East Africa and then do West Africa. So I was going along with this plan. And Bansko, Bulgaria actually is a place where a lot of nomads go. So meaning that people who work from their laptop and just travel the world. And I want to make sure I pick countries and cities within countries that have that community so I can meet people. Because if I just pick a country because it's pretty or it's popular, I can only stay there for a week because it's going to be hard to really meet people consistently and kind of build a community. And that's important for me as I'm traveling. So that's bringing me to my next point. Let me know if you have any questions again on accommodations. And I'm gonna get to how I really started saving money and getting better at doing accommodations um, in 1 second. So finding a community, to me, that means finding people that I can go to lunch with, go to dinner with, just talk with, go to the park cafe. Because I'm like, even though I am a little shy with approaching new people and meeting new people, I'm a very outgoing person. I know that's like, ain't that backwards? And at home, in Michigan, I'm always trying to do something. Like if it's going to a new restaurant, going to a comedy show, going to a concert, like I like to do things. And even though I'm traveling solo, that doesn't mean I want to do everything by myself. Because I don't do everything by myself when I was in the United States. So finding a community was really important for me, really finding and building a community. And then also with me being a Black woman, I have to be at a certain point, I have to be with people that look like me. Because it's just, you go through a lot of, I went through some racism I'm gonna get to if I have time on the live, and people just don't understand. Um, yes, Crystal, shy. That's because you've been knowing me since high school. So people who've been, a lot of my friends are, I've been having since childhood, because I be holding on to my friends like Pokemon cards. Okay, like I know that about myself, and so people be like, yes, if you've been knowing me since high school, of course I don't seem like you've been knowing me for a while. And my auntie is saying that too. Like, when are you shy? When, listen, y'all been knowing me for so long, it's hard to imagine. But like Jackie, me and Jackie went live yesterday evening. That's a friend I made in my adulthood. Like, we started talking because she came up to me and was talking to me to me. Like, I will go to places and do stuff by myself, but me going up to someone and saying, "Hey, how are you?" Now I do it because I'm used to it. But when I first left, I was like, this is gonna be real interesting because it just makes me nervous. But you gotta have that awkward small talk. And listen, I knew how to do it, like from a corporate setting to being fake, but like in a social setting, that's just not my thing. But it is now. So finding a community. Um, why I say I got it right with starting with Europe first is because I was just so excited to leave the United States and see the world. I didn't really care about meeting people, like having, like, if I met somebody to go to coffee with or whatever, I didn't care. I just did that at that moment, right? But I knew after a few months, like probably the 6 month mark, I was gonna want to be like having consistent people in my life when I was in certain countries, and I was dead on with that. So Europe was perfect for that because it was so expensive. I wasn't about to stay somewhere for a month. Even I would say in Portugal, I did meet some like Portuguese people, citizens of Portugal, and they were telling me where I could stay for a month for like $500 a month and different stuff like that. But I wasn't planning on being in Portugal more than a month. I was like trying to go somewhere else. So to the point that someone made about like always using Airbnb, it's so important to get to know locals because they'll tell you how to find cheaper places if you are not in any Facebook groups. But anyway, when I was starting off in Europe, I wasn't trying to really build a community. So I'm glad I started there first. Then going to Africa, I built community really when I was in Kenya, which is why Kenya is my favorite place and where I know favorite place to have a base for as of right now. It wasn't my favorite place to visit. Let me not say that. But from a tourist standpoint of picking a place where you only want to be for a week and just it's cute and it's pretty, hands down, my favorite place is Venice and then Santorini. Like, would I want to live in those places? No, but I just want to be there. It's pretty. It's good food. It's a lot to see and do. But from a place where I could see myself staying for a few months, it's going to be Kenya. Um, and so in Bulgaria, even though that was not on my list, I going to Bulgaria, like I was like, where is that on the map? It's Eastern Europe. If you said the same thing I said. Um, when I was there, I met people that I hung out with for like several weeks, going hiking with and just sharing stories on what it's like to travel the world by yourself, tips on like safety, on where to go next. So I was meeting a lot of people in all the places Bulgaria. And one of those people I met, Frank, I ended up running into him in Thailand. And I've been hanging out with him here in Thailand. So it's like you would think that once you meet people, you'll never see them again. That's not true. I'm like, how the heck of all places I end up running into you again in Thailand? And that's where I'm at right now if you're just joining the live. So with that, Bulgaria ended up being a place where I was like, I really felt welcome. I didn't see hardly any Black people. I seen like 3 Black people in a month. And yes, I was keeping count because it was so weird to me. It was like I was in the middle of nowhere and I'm like, it wasn't even just not Black. I didn't see no minorities. I was like, okay, this is different. And the other minorities I met, they did have a different experience than I did. But they did feel like, not feel like they experienced racism. I didn't. I met some local Bulgarians. They let me drive their car. I was eating food. It was just a good time for me there. So, hey, Tyrone. Thank you, Crystal. Get into some of y'all comments right now. Um, so yeah, I was not expecting to have meet people in Bulgaria, and that was the first place where I sat for a month, and I was like able to slow down. And then Kenya is, I would say East Africa holds a special place in my heart because I was with locals for the most part. Like I was with Tanzanians. They say Tanzania, and then we say Tanzania in America. So I will probably use that word interchangeably, but that's East Africa. So Zanzibar is where is the country that is, Tanzania is the country Zanzibar is in the island. If you haven't heard of Tanzania, Zanzibar, when you hear Zanzibar, that's Tanzania. That was the place where I hung out with a lot of Tanzania women. Like they was just like, I was going out to them, get my nails done, where to go get my hair braided, all of that stuff. And I was like, this is cool. And I didn't hang out with any, I didn't meet any people from Tanzania when I was in Tanzania. So I was just straight hanging up with everyone who was from there. It was a struggle at first because I don't speak Swahili and Google Translate does not work with Swahili. So it was a struggle at first, but it ended up working out for me the most. And then Kenya, I was hanging out with people from the US a lot, and I was hanging out with Kenyans. So it was a mix. That was a community there because like I was, like I mentioned before, I was going to yoga. I was going grocery shopping. I was just doing regular stuff. That's where I spent Christmas. I have a lot of vlogs on Kenya because that's just where I felt the most at home. I went apartment hopping, hunting there. So I just seen a lot, and I met a couple people who were actually moving to Kenya. So I got to see what it's like to get an apartment for a year with not being a citizen of Kenya. Just so many things. Somebody got sick that I met, and I heard some food. I wasn't feeling well. It's like you had your own community. So people think like, oh, if you're by yourself, what if you get sick? Side note, I actually went to the doctor today because I was feeling like a lot of pressure in my lower abdomen. So luckily I have 3 strong people that I've met here, like meaning like we talk daily, know where to go find an English speaking doctor. Like stuff happens, and it's so important to find a community so you know where to go. So now it was like, okay, this happened at the doctor, y'all. Like, they like, okay, let me know what happened. Let me know if you want me to go with you. Like, so that's what I mean. Like, it's so important to have a community. Yes, it definitely can be. I had just a couple of like covert racism experiences, like that was getting on my nerve. Yes, Jackie, you do not know a stranger at all. So, so I'll get to like what do I mean by the racism. So this is where I had saw on social media where a lot of people were saying like when you're Black American, African American, it will kind of go, your nationality matters more than your race. So it's a lot of people thought, I would say 95% of the time, everyone thought in Europe that I was either from some country in Africa or I was from London. I'm like, I don't know where London came from, but it was either one of those. Nobody thought I was American ever. Like when I spoke, they was like, "You American?" I'm like, "Yes," and it was just like a different way of treatment from dining, from being feeling like okay. In Europe, there's a different dining experience, a different culture. But once I learned the culture of the local country of the country I was in, that was my way of like knowing, okay, I'm being treated differently. I'm not the person that's like immediately like, oh my God, it's racist. You're racist. That's not me at all. However, when you sit back and you just observe, like, okay, that's no one's acknowledging my existence when you go into places. And then when I go up for assistance and I speak, it's been, oh, you're American? And then it's a whole different, the moves change. That's covert racism. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be the N word to your face or get out the store. But it's like, if just because you hear the American accent now and be treated differently, and it's so funny because it's like I feel like I get more respect as an American outside of America than I actually do in America. That's a whole nother video for another day. But I really see why a lot of people that I met in Kenya and Tanzania, I get why certain Africans, I'm not going to say all, I'm just speaking from my experience, why they see like the privilege that I have as being American. Because even if you think about what happened with Ukraine in the war, the Africans, they did not care about getting them out of there. But if you were Black American, you were treated differently. So your nationality matters so much more when you leave outside the US more than anything, in my personal experience. But I couldn't get a pedicure or manicure in Europe all the time. I didn't get a pedicure or manicure until I went to Bulgaria. Because everywhere I went in to see, they're like, oh, we're booked up. Oh, you got to have an appointment. And it's like, okay, when is the availability? They're like, basically, we not going to ever have no availability for you. Um, so I did get my hair braided and stuff as I've been traveling, but that's me getting in Facebook groups and finding like Black people that do hair. So I guess I got to go in there and find people who do nails and stuff too. So this stuff exists. Like this is what it's like when you're traveling while Black. Like I can't just go in and go to any hair salon because they're not going to know how to do Black hair. I have to make sure I know where the Black hair salons are at. Um, as far as getting nails done, they may not want to do my nails or give me a manicure pedicure because I'm Black, even with the nationality. So this is my personal experience. You may get it on YouTube and see that another Black woman didn't experience this, but this is just coming from where I'm coming from. So listen, I as far as I don't know where the London came from. I guess with some of the things that I wore, people thought I was from London or whatever. But on the scale around from a world perspective from my travels, um, Europeans and US is like superpowers. Like I guess I really didn't realize that. I'm saying from a currency standpoint, from a visa standpoint, you can just pretty much go anywhere, do visa on arrival for the most part. Like you just don't face a lot of things where if I was straight up African that I would face. And I didn't really realize that till I was in Africa and talking to people on why they can't travel as much as me. It's not even a lot of times it's not even monetary. It's just like the visa process and not wanting people from perceived like poor countries that everybody's poor. It's just a different type of thing. So I learned a lot from that perspective. And I was gonna say just yeah, it wasn't like anything out the way. But it's just that more passive aggressive stuff and people approaching me just wanting to be in my business or how was I able to afford to do this, and feeling really bothered by me being able to travel the world solo and quitting my job and traveling. It's been mostly from white Americans, to be honest with you. And I'm like, I'm just over here minding my business, and here you come trying to interrupt me, just inserting themselves, like, and it's been a little back and forth sometimes. So that's no, the passport bros don't want me, Jacob. You should know that the passport bros is all about um getting non-Black women. Basically, that's a whole nother debate on that. Okay, I see you, Big Mom. Okay, so let me get to the next thing. Let me know if you have any questions. Burnouts. Um, it gets very exhausting. Packing up every few weeks. I know that could be, oh, poor you, what a struggle. Your biggest thing is you gotta pack your suitcase. I know that's such an American complaint. But the constant change, it gets old. While I really like to experience new cultures, is exhausting because I gotta find a new place to stay, and then finding like understanding what your surroundings. For example, like what's the best food spot to go to? Where am I gonna get my laundry done? Where is something where I can get toiletries from? Like you have to find all these things out every few weeks. I was getting burnt out from that. Um, So when I went to Bulgaria, that's where I had the biggest place where I was like, not only was I trying to save money, but I was kind of getting exhausted because Portugal, I'm gonna say this, like Lisbon, especially, it was so easy to meet people. And I was going out all the time, and I was like, okay, I got to sit down because I've been going out all the time. I've been spending too much money. The Facebook groups. So if you're like, you keep saying Facebook groups, like there's Facebook groups like Black in Portugal. That's where if you're traveling while Black, you can meet other Black people to go out with. If you're like, I don't smell Black people and I don't feel comfortable, Black in Portugal. There's usually a Black and blank, like Black in, Thailand. There's some type of Black Facebook group for you to find your people. There's like that for Latinos and that as well. And then there's just regular expat groups. So that's helpful. But Portugal, yes. Um, I was just like, I did so much. I had so much fun. Um, one country I never have to go to again. I don't have to go to Spain again. So sorry if you're watching from Spain. I had fun in Barcelona. I made friends. I still talk to them to this day. But just southern Spain and just the overall experience of Spain, I don't have to go back there. If I went back there, it would be because I was going with friends or somebody wanted to go, but it wouldn't be anything I would initiate. That's the only country that I'm like, I don't have to go back to. But anyway, for burnout, I experienced burnout all of February. I didn't do nothing but uh go to the gym, go to sleep, repeat, go to the grocery store and cook my food because going back to the United States drained the heck out of me. It was a 30-hour travel time back to get to Thailand, like to get to where I was going next. Yeah, I was just wiped out. Like, so when I got to the United States, I was in Florida, went on a cruise, and then got off the cruise, was with my friend Natalie, then went to Las Vegas to hang out with my friend Shanice and her family for her birthday, then went to San Francisco to be with her, like to visit her, then flying here. Like I did all of that in 2 weeks in the United States. That was way too much to do after partying my life away in Ghana. So it was like a month of just nonstop caught up with me, and I just literally just crashed. When I got here in Thailand, I was like, I don't want to meet nobody. I don't want to go to no meetups. I ain't doing nothing. And that's what I did. So as far as saving money, um, so as far as like what attracted me to South B, South B is very for people who watch it from Detroit, it's very much east side. Detroit. So I just felt like I was I was just like this. I feel at home. Like I'm not from the east side of Detroit by any means. Like no offense or whatever, but it's just like I grew up where I lived. It looked a lot about. It looked a lot like certain parts of Highland Park I grew up in Michigan. Different parts. My family living in Detroit. I just felt at home. First of all, it was car washes everywhere. And then just the street food set up. Like we didn't have that, like that's not a thing in Detroit, like back in the day when I was growing up or anything. But it just felt at home. So this comment is saying, why wasn't I basically in the expat areas? That's like the Westlands and Lobbyton. It really reminds me of Buckhead of Atlanta, like Lobbyton areas. This person's mentioned like specific neighborhoods. My Airbnb happened to be in South B. And it's funny because the friends I made from America, they was like, girl, you in the hood. I was like, I guess I am a little bit, but I'm like, it wasn't like I didn't feel uncomfortable, like to be honest with you. I love my Airbnb, I love my apartment, like I was staying in, had a view. Security guards, they was actually securing the building. I don't know. I really like South B, and then I got to know a lot of the people in the community, like just talking to them like every day. Like I had my spots to go to. Like when I didn't show up, people was like, "Where was you at yesterday?" It was just a different vibe. So my other friends that I made, they were in Lavington and Westlands, and I was there, and that was cool. But I just felt like at home in South B. So when I come back to Kenya next year, I'm going to say for a few months, I'm not sure what area I'm going to live in. It may be South B, but the people that I've met, they're more in Lavington. And then in Kenya, it's with traffic, it's a lot to get to these different areas. So I may stay where I have like my friends that I really talk to regularly. I may stay in that area more. But if you just showed up, you may be like, whoa, like what's this? It's a lot. But I was like, oh, this just feels like home. So that's what made me go there. So I'm going back to some of these questions. I want to go back to Jacob's to his patronizing. Um, Now Thailand. I said I had burnout in February. Getting back to burnout, back to myself 100%. Meaning I'm meeting people, going to dinner, going to coffee. I've been studying, like I've been going to temple, doing meditation, like looking inward, which is something I wanted to do. I like learning about other religions, and just why people do the things that they do. So passport bros, I have seen them in Thailand. Um, just so you know, Jacob. They ain't checking for me. But I have seen them. So there is a red light district in Thailand, which is basically where workers are. Um, and you have a lot of trans women there, and you will see people there for transactions, if you can read between the lines. And I've seen them there, not necessarily for trans women, but I've seen them there because they're going there looking for a certain type of woman, and you can clearly see these relationship dynamics when you're through Thailand of like why they really came here. And that's just different men in general. Like you can see older, like more my age, and it's like, okay, I see why you came over here. And then me and my one friend was telling me that she heard conversations of a person like this guy and woman on a date, and it was kind of like he came over here to find a submissive woman, and he was basically telling her that on the date, and was telling her like, I want you to change your hair, you should do this, and I really like Asian women because you guys are just more docile, and I like how you don't like on the date with her. So the passport bros are here. um, I'm not talking to anyone who's ignorant like that, but I have seen them, and we are nosy, and so we be listening to conversations when we see people out. Um, so let me get to the comments. You can keep. I don't know what you mean by like you can keep your hair. I don't get it. Um. Okay, I will note that. Mo on what to say. But yeah, I'm planning on coming back to Kenya sometime in January of next year for a few months because I really do want to explore East Africa more, like even Tanzania. Between my experience in Kenya and Tanzania makes me definitely want to check out Uganda and Rwanda, um, especially. So I'm definitely going to be back. I am real nosy. Yes, I am. That's why I be quiet sometimes so I can see what's going on. I miss the people. I don't really miss. So as far as like missing Detroit, so I will say this: people are like, "Do you get lonely while you're traveling?" Like they ask me from a dating perspective and from a friendship perspective, and it's like I don't feel any more disconnected or lonely than I did in Michigan traveling. So a lot of my friends, they have lives. A lot of my friends, like I mean, as far as like they're married with kids, and a lot of them don't live in Michigan. So that's one thing. And then the ones who are in Michigan, they're busy with doing things with their family. Like even if you don't have a husband or a wife or children, you may be caring for an elderly family member or something. Like life happens, right? So at as I was aging every 3 to 4 years, it was just like friend circles was changing and things that I wanted to do. It was just hard to like do things really. And I was doing a lot of stuff in Detroit by myself, like right before I left, because I got tired of people canceling on me all the time. And it's like, okay, well, I did want to do this. And I was dating in Detroit, but that's another lie for another day. I'm not going to even get into dating on here. But I just felt like, okay, I want to see other things, and I'm already doing stuff by myself anyway. So I really need to take this leap of faith. Because a lot of times I was in Atlanta. all the time, visiting Rochelle, and other friends I have in Atlanta. And at one point, like making connections with my dad and his family there in Atlanta as well. And being in Florida all the time, California all the time, like Texas all the time. It's like I was gone from Michigan every other weekend. Now, from a family perspective, my family were close. We get together for family get-togethers, but COVID kind of changed all of that. And my family's pretty big, so it's somebody's birthday every month. So some between holidays and going out to eat with people's birthdays, before COVID, I was used to seeing my family all the time. So COVID was hard for me, and like me and my family, we would do house party, that app, to get on to see people. Like I ain't seen you in 3 months. That's like abnormal for my family, right? So COVID kind of prepared me to not see my family as much, and I mean like my extended family, like my cousins and my aunts and uncles. Like we have cousin day to make sure we hang out, seeing me and my cousins and stuff. So I'm pretty close with my family, and then not even just that, going to church. I was going to church every Sunday and Wednesday before COVID. When COVID happened, it was kind of like, okay, I'm not seeing my church family that much anymore either, right? So COVID kind of like created this extended disconnectedness for me. This is a long way to answer, but I definitely miss the people in my life in Detroit. But I don't know, Detroit itself, not really. I was always gone because I was like, I felt like I seen everything and did everything. So when I come back in August, I'm excited to see the new places that have popped up. I miss people getting my slang. Um, Everybody who leave Detroit say they miss Coney Island. I do miss Coney Island breakfast from time to time, like different stuff like that. But I haven't had those moments where I'm like, oh my God, like I just really want to be back at home in Michigan. So after the cruise was over, when I went back home in January, when I say home, I just mean the United States. And whenever I see my family, that's home. So when I went back and saw my family, it was 19 of us. Okay. That's how me and my family, like we fortunately, not only do we love each other, we like each other. Um, they were like, "You coming home?" I'm like, no. And I really felt like I didn't have a home, like a physical home anymore. I was more excited for my next destination, if that makes sense. So I wasn't feeling like, oh my God, I can't wait to get home. I miss my bed, or I miss, like, no, it was like, okay, I can't wait to go find a new place I'm comfortable in to stay. Like, if that makes sense. So hopefully that answers that question. Um, okay. So visas. Yes, I had an issue with, so Europe. This is one of the reasons why I was like, I really enjoy traveling through Europe, because I was spoiled with, you don't have to have any visas. You show up. That's one thing with having this blue passport. You show up, you scan, you go. You don't got to pay to get in the countries. You have a certain amount of time, and that's it. Africa is different. You got to have visas. Egypt, I was worried about because I was flying my mom in, and I'm like, okay, we can do e-visas. E-visas in Egypt was trash. And so I was worried about, okay, are we going to be able to get visas when we get there? Egypt was the easiest place to get a visa. You show up, you pay $25 at the bank. They don't even check, for me and my mom's experience, they didn't even check our passport. They was just like, here, stamp, then you go through immigration. Tanzania, you can do visa on arrival, meaning that you can arrive in the country and go to a different lane once you land in the airport to pay to enter the country. But when I was planning to go to Tanzania, it was like their website was saying, we strongly encourage you to have an e-visa. And so I got nervous, and I'm like, I don't want to go to Tanzania by myself. And what if I don't get let through? And people were like, you freaking out for nothing. Like everyone I met in Egypt, they were like, you are American. You gonna be fine. This is Egyptians telling me this. So I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. And I went back. I'm going through the whole thing. I would say Ghana was a nightmare. I'm gonna get there in a second. Um, Kenya e-visa, got it in 2 days. Ghana, Ghana. Wow, I love partying in Ghana. That visa process was horrible. Um, they changed it. President Nana changed it like literally like a week before Afrochella started. And he made this announcement that you can come with a you can come and do visa on arrival. But before that, you had to have a visa before you enter Ghana. And when I tell you that I wasted $400 with visas, the visa process in Ghana. First of all, I was going with a travel group, and they said you can pay us, to do with a travel company. But I'm like, I'm going to just do the visa process myself online. And one thing about Ghana is you have to physically mail your passport to the embassy in Washington, D.C. So I'm in Kenya at this time when I'm applying for the visa. I'm not mailing my passport anywhere. I'm already out the country. There was no way around it. I emailed the actual Ghana embassy in DC and the actual Ghana, and I asked them like, "Hey, can I do visa on arrival?" Their official response was, "We don't do I don't understand visa on arrival. We don't have such process." I rephrased it or whatever they said. We don't have that. So, I had to go online. The company, I missed a deadline with the travel company I was with to go get the visa through them. So I had to find a company, pay them $300. I paid $130 actually. So $430 I wasted. I paid $130 to do my US visa process. I mean the Ghana visa process online that I couldn't do anything with unless you mail your passport. I couldn't do that. So then I applied through a company and paid $300 to get a visa through them because they did a business visa for me. And then as soon as I got that visa, President Nana said, y'all can do visa on arrival. So I don't know what's going to happen with Ghana for this year. I don't know if that's a permanent thing in effect, but I was very frustrated with that because it's like Ghana is really doing great with advertising tourism for people to come back for the beyond the return to see. I mean, it's canceled and just like come back home and explore your roots and that stuff in Ghana. And then with Afrochella, Delta December is a thing now with in Ghana and Nigeria. So all this tourism is coming over, and it's like you can't advertise all this tourism and then not have a visa on arrival process or a easier visa process because East Africa, I got my visas in 2 days online. No issue. You can't end you have to do e-visas in Kenya. So that was the hardest part. Africa, you have to have visas, even with being American citizen, because usually we have more leniency with visas. Even Africans going to other parts of Africa, they have problems with that. Like Nigerians have a hard time going to Egypt and they African. So yes, Africa is a challenge with visas. Thailand, I mean, as far as Asia is concerned, you don't need an actual visa for Thailand. You can come to Thailand in 45 days without actually applying for a visa. But I had to extend my visa and I paid, I can't remember because it was in by what that converted over to. But you do have to pay to stay past 45 days and you have to apply and say, why are you staying? So my horrible visa experience was in Ghana. That's one thing I wish I would have known before leaving. And also too, um, I left the US. It's a huge mistake I had. I just remembered it now. Yes. I know, yes, I miss you and Carol. Yeah, I didn't have that experience, Jacob, and that's why I think I was so anxious to go travel. Um, Vaccines. Oh my God, I got this so wrong. I Once I was in Italy, I was like, how did you not do this? Like, so for Africa, different countries in Africa require vaccinations. Countries in Europe do not require vaccinations. You just had to have COVID-19 or test negative for a COVID test. But if you have more questions, we are at time. But if you have questions, I'm keep going. So what was I gonna say? For Egypt, you have to have yellow fever and malaria. Not malaria. You got to have yellow fever and something else. It's two vaccines. I can't remember off the top of my head. As a U.S. citizen, you have to have those to go to Egypt if you want to come back to the U.S. It's how it's worded on the U.S. website. So my slow self did not have any vaccinations. So when I was in Italy, I was scrambling to get my vaccinations for Egypt. So luckily, This is where meeting citizens of the country you're in, some Italians, um, you have to use their national card to get a vaccine. So I was able to get my vaccinations because I had to use their citizenship to get a vaccine. Is how I was able to enter Egypt. Ghana did require vaccinations. I think they wanted to see my actual yellow card. Like when you get the yellow fever vaccine, you actually get a yellow booklet, and they wanted to see that upon arrival into Ghana. Tanzania and Kenya said they required it, but they didn't. I didn't have to show anything. So, if you're traveling to Africa, that's been the only continent so far that requires certain vaccinations. Make sure you get them. If you're doing a long travel with me, get them ahead of time because I was scrambling. Um, what was I gonna say, girl? Yes, I the the passport bros, Jackie. I think they just over here to hook up and marry someone just to say they did it and they got a submissive wife. Like all this gender wars, it's like crazy. Um, on here, it would be Kenya. If I had to pick right now, it would be Kenya. Chiang Mai is a close second, but I would say Kenya because I need to get more involved and see the Black community in Thailand first. There is a community. I've been out with them, but they were like I connected with people who permanently live here through people I've met through Facebook groups. But I haven't done any meetups here, and I haven't had that community like I had with the Black community that I had in Kenya and with Kenyans. So Kenyans do not consider themselves, let me not speak for all Kenyans. The Kenyans I met and what I'm understanding is when you meet people from different African countries or Caribbean, when they say they're not Black, they like to say their country. Like it's a nationality pride thing. So it's like, no, I'm not Black, I'm Kenyan. And one of my friends actually said, like, even in Europe, people like, don't call me white, I'm Italian. Like don't do that. And they like, I'm French. So yes, I would pick Kenya and yeah, Ty. Like I said, I really like Chiang Mai. I've met great people here, so far, like really great people. But I need to have a plug in with the Black community. Like I can't not have that. And so if I find that here, Chiang Mai would be. It would probably still be number two. Like Kenya just a vibe, but I don't want to when I say if I move somewhere, I see myself having bases, like a base, having like living in Kenya for several months out the year, living in Thailand for several months out the year, but and then going home every year, home as in Michigan, um, to visit my family. So a lot of people when they leave, they're like, "Oh, I said that, but I never did that." I can't see myself not doing that. Like this summer, I have so many life events going on. My friends have so many life events going on that I don't want to miss. And I really been making a priority to keep my friendships, like my conversations going with my friends, because some people they leave to travel because they're trying to escape. I wasn't trying to escape by meaning I hated everyone. That wasn't my story. So I really want to make sure I keep that going. So until I get my mama out the country, um, I see myself spending 3 months there. And even if my mom did move out the country with me or whatever, my Aunt Kira, who's on here, I gotta see my Aunt Kira because I gotta see her often. I gotta spend time with her, and it's all my aunties in general. Like, one thing I realized, like, as I'm getting older, like, it's like, dang, I'm getting older, and so is my family members. Like, duh. When you start to see it like different, like, oh my goodness, like my aunties are like my grandmother's age. They're getting close to my grandmother's ages. My grandmother age when she passed away, and her sisters and all that stuff. So you start to look at life different. So I definitely am going to make a concerted effort to go home, no matter where I am. Going back home to Detroit for several months at a time. Um, Make sure. Let me see how many likes I got. I don't know who if Jackie's still in here or Jacob or somebody can tell me how many likes I got. But if you didn't hit that like button, make sure you hit that like button so I can get my stuff up. And do me a favor. I got a playlist on here. I'm trying to get my watch hours up. watch one of my playlists. If y'all support Netflix and binge watch, support my YouTube channel. Click a playlist and watch the videos all the way through because I can get my watch hours up and monetize so I can get paid for doing all these videos because I'm gonna tell y'all, I need a check from YouTube. So let me just end with telling you how much I'm paying for rent in Thailand and how I got back on budget. So I said I was over budget from an accommodation standpoint by over $5,000. So Thailand, I want y'all to guess how much I'm paying for rent here for 1 month in Thailand. Y'all can drop it in the chat what y'all think I'm paying for rent. And I will say, let me provide this scenario. So like I've stayed in places that have great skyline views, pools, gyms. I'm staying right now in a studio. I've stayed in 2 studios, 1 bedroom apartments. So yeah, yeah, I'm paying $430 for rent for the month where I'm staying now. Again, it's after midnight here, so it's like I got these curtains blocking off so you can't see my view. I'm trying to figure out how I can do this live where I can get better lighting or something, but I would say my biggest complaint is the lighting in every apartment I've been in. And my friend was just saying this, Sean was saying this too. The lighting is trash. That's my biggest complaint. Yeah. Um, yeah, for the month. And that's standard, and that's standard. Now, when I was doing Airbnb when I first got here, I came during peak season, and you have to. One thing about Thailand with Chiang Mai, you have to come and hit the ground running. Same thing in Bulgaria. Like if you go to countries where the rent is low, like the one gentleman mentioned, like Barcelona rent is low. For you to get that rent, you have to get here with feet on the ground and get to know the area first. Um, before you do anything. Like, so there's a Facebook group for renting places in Thailand. And I went to see some of those places and I'm like, yeah, this is enough for me. Some of them look just like the picture, but they required a 1 year lease. And I'm like, I'm not staying for a year. So different things like that. But once you get to, like I'm in Chiang Mai, once you get here, you'll start seeing signs for like monthly apartments for rent, month to month available, but you don't really see a lot of month to month online. So it definitely makes a difference when you come to the country you're coming to and hit the ground running as far as looking for a place. And I'm actually decided to stay. I don't know if I'm gonna do Chiang Mai for 3 months or if I'm gonna go to Bangkok, but I'm going to just stay in Thailand until I come back to Detroit in August because um I don't feel like I need a permanent place. I'm gonna keep visiting other countries, but Thailand is low cost and it's centrally located. So I am going to Japan in 2 weeks. That's right here. I definitely want to go to Singapore. I want to go to Australia. I'm going to Bali. So I can go and catch flights and then come back home in Thailand. And that eliminates me feeling like, oh, I got to take all my stuff with me, even though it's just a carry on. I'm packing light, but it's just the whole thing of like taking everything with you. And then what if I don't like this new place I'm in? What if I don't like this hotel? And you know what I mean? Like I'm sick of doing that. So um, my travel so far, I don't see me doing what I did the first 6 months. That was just insane. Like I've done 15 countries total in 9 months. And the majority of that was the first 6 months of me traveling. I can't see myself doing that again. I definitely want to have a home to come back to and then go somewhere for a week or 2 weeks at a time to do the tourist thing and then come back. So I'm burnt out completely from that. Um, I got that a lot even when I was in Tanzania. Um, oh, thank you so much. And I love your YouTube channel too. She is like turning her car into a living space. It's so interesting to watch. So I just like watching how different people live around the world. Um, so you check. Let me see any more questions. So yeah, so until August, I will be here. Um, I don't know if I'll be right in Chiang Mai. I want to figure out what part of Thailand I'm gonna be in, but I'm gonna be here until August, and then I got a lot of stuff to do when I come back to Michigan. I got milestone birthdays in New York, Houston, and a couple friends getting married, a couple friends having babies. Like, it's just a lot of stuff I want to see with my friends having life events. And then my nonprofit, Financial Garden. I've been doing Financial Garden for almost 10 years now, and it was LLC. And so I've turned it into a nonprofit. So I'm looking forward to get back with my clients in person, and get some processes in place for that. So when I leave to go back to Africa, it won't be as stressful for me. So in the summer, I had sites running for my financial literacy company, and that was a little stressful to manage being abroad. I have rental properties. I gotta see if these people gonna renew their lease. If not, I have to get ready to show that and rent that out and what that process is gonna look like. So I definitely gotta come back to handle that for a few months, and then that's besides clearly seeing my friends and my family. So I will for sure be back for a few months when I come back to the United States. So from August to December is my plan, and then Ghana for sure in December again. And then right now the plan is to go to Kenya right after that. So it's only March, but I already have my next year plan, and I know that everyone says God laughs at your plan. So who knows? It may change. We don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. But I appreciate y'all for watching and joining and staying on with me for this time. I don't see any more questions. So with that being said, I'm in with like this video, share this video, and if you don't do nothing else, watch a playlist. Watch all them videos. I need to watch ours. Like, literally click the link. If you go to my page, watch a video to its entirety and leave just like it. That's gonna help me more than you will know. That's how you can support a small business, because I'm trying to get monetized. All right, so I will see y'all next time. Bye.